we meet. Thank you so much for joining with us today. We are on our live stream and we are going to be talking about you have the power. That's what I want to talk about today, is that you have the power. You do. And it's interesting because I was noticing, I mean, we always talk about, some semblance of this, but I was noticing this the other day when I had a lot of work I had to get done, and I went right straight into this sort of like kind of being annoyed with I don't remember what it was. So something I was working with. There was maybe a tool or something like, you stupid thing. Why don't you ever work? Why don't you ever work? And then I thought to myself, look at what I'm creating. Look at what I'm creating. When I say that, when I put myself into a situation where I've set up this conflict with this inanimate object, right? And so in my deep mind, I'm giving a command to my deep mind, which is the causative principle in my life, that this is a conflicted situation with this object. Make sure that there's conflict here. And I noticed myself doing that, and I said, wait, let's reverse that. And let's just remember that, I don't even remember what it was, but let's just say it was, I don't know, maybe it was my computer. Okay, let's just say it was my computer. Instead of getting upset with the computer and like, you never get what I want, I never get what I want from you, I started looking at it, and I know it's not a sentient being, but I started to talk to it like it was a friend, and I said, thank you so much for all that you've done for me. I don't know what I'd do without you. You are, and sincerely meant it. It's just like what you've done for me. Look at all of this great stuff you do for me. I am so grateful for you. And that second, everything started to work again. That second, everything just turned around. Started to work again. And then I thought, let's keep going with this, because I had a big project going on. And every single little thing that I came into contact with that I started using, I started thanking it. I started treating it like a being. Now, I know that it's not a being, so we're not getting superstitious about it. But I used that part of my deep mind that responds to everything as if it was a sentient being, right? And I started to treat each item as a very, very good friend. And just thank you so much for everything you've done. Now, when I had to get rid of some things, I made sure to thank those things. Thank you so much for everything you've done for me, all of the wonderful things that I've been able to accomplish because you've been in my life, and now you no longer need to be here, so I'm letting you go. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And I noticed that the more I did that, the more things started to just take shape right in front of me. And almost, some of it was almost kind of scary, mystically, like over the top stuff. Like there was a big knot in a piece of string that I'm like, I wonder if I should throw this out. And then I'm like, I said, it wasn't just a piece of string. It was like an item that I kind of liked. But I'm like, do I want to spend the time untangling this, or do I want to just throw it out? And so I started doing that same thing. I started saying, thank you so much for everything you've ever done. And I swear I was doing this, and it just went, and the whole knot just opened up, and I just had to just kind of basically, finish it off. You know what I'm saying? So I came to the realization that, we always talk about this. I should have had this realization, but I came to this realization that I have a lot of power. I have a lot of power, that things tend to respond to me based on the energy I bring into them. Based on the energy I bring into them. And so everybody, every single one of us has one little section of the world that we've sort of been assigned. Now, if you start treating your section of the universe with this kind of, using this kind of information to your benefit, and recognizing that each and every little interaction that I have, it's up to me what energy I bring to that information, what energy I bring to that situation, what energy I bring to that interaction, whether it's with a sentient being or an inanimate object, it doesn't make any difference. I am responsible for what I show up with. And what I show up with tends to be the way it works out for me. Now, occasionally we show up with really I keep saying that, we show up with really good intentions and things still don't seem to work out for us. What I've noticed is that sometimes you need to keep at it. Sometimes you just need to stay with it and don't take no for an answer. Don't just say, well, I guess it only works sometime. No, it works all the time. If it seems like it's not working, it just means you need to stay with it. Stay with it and see how much more gratitude you can bring into it. See how much more praise you can bring into the situation. See how much more of that joyful energy you can bring into the situation. Because we really do have a choice. It's uncanny how much of a choice we have. Now, can you imagine if your own little section of the universe, your own little section of the garden, if you will, got so filled with this kind of energy that it just vibrated with positivity and that nothing that you touched did anything except for respond back to you with love? Can you imagine how powerful that would be for the rest of the world that's not necessarily within your sphere of influence, that's not necessarily your part of the garden? All minds are joined, right? Every mind is joined. So if it's working for you, if your life is working, how good is that for everybody else? How good is that for the world? How good is that for the environment? How good is that for world peace? How good is that for all of these governments and all of these problems that we see? You know, all of this mismanagement of our government and all of this, all of these problems that we're having on a macro level. Can you imagine what a difference you could make by getting your part of the garden so that it was responding to your amazing energy that you're putting into it? Right? So we know about this. We know this is true, right? We talk about all this time. We talk about this all the time. That you can plant these thought seeds into your deep mind, and they grow like plants, and they bear fruit after their kind. And that's what magic is planting these seeds. Whether you're using psalm magic, or whether you're using candle magic, whether you're using poppet magic, whether you're using mental magic, it doesn't matter. You are planting thought seeds. Now imagine if you were to be so universal in application of your magic that every single interaction of your life was now informed by what you brought into the situation rather than you reacting to what you think that situation is bringing to you. Imagine if you recognized that you have the power to completely transform any situation based on the energy that you're bringing to it. Now, you won't have that power unless you assume it. You have to assume that posture. You have to accept that mission for yourself. It can't just happen, arbitrarily. You have to say, yes, this is true. I do have the power, and I want to use the power. But see, the thing is once you put that mantle on, then you have to act like it. That means that when things aren't working out well for you, you have to still take responsibility for the energy you're bringing to them. You can't all of a sudden say, well, as long as I get what I want when I want it, I'll be positive. I'll bring the right energy to it. But if it's not working out the way I want to, then all bets are off. Then I'm just not going to play. Right? You can't do that, because that's when the rubber meets the road. Is when things aren't working out so well for you, where you have to say, what can I bring to this situation? While it's true that there's a lot that you can't influence, there's a lot you cannot influence, there's a lot that's at least at this point, that's out of your sphere of influence. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about all this stuff that you can influence. Let's do an experiment this week. Find little things, little tiny things that aren't working in your life. Just notice them and see what you can do to start to up the gratitude level and to up the praise level to that thing. What is it that you're bringing to that situation? And how can you just really flood it with love and flood it with gratitude and flood it with praise. Praise, love, and gratitude. That's a real potent formula right there. And it's not namby-pamby. It's not silly. It's very potent. It's very, very potent. And that is a very traditional magical trinity right there. Praise, love, and gratitude. Now, if you can flood a situation that you do have influence over with praise, love, and gratitude, notice how it changes right before your eyes without you having to do anything. Experiment on that for a whole week and take every little tiny, go for the small stuff, every little tiny thing that's just an annoyance. How can you flood it with praise, love, and gratitude and notice how it changes? And then you're in a better position to say, okay, now what if I flood everything that comes on my path with praise, love, and gratitude, even the stuff I can't change, even the stuff I don't really have influence over? How can I at least transform my reaction or my response to it? Because when you do that, then you're not arbitrarily putting in a bunch of requests into your deep mind to have more problems. Right? If you have, your deep mind doesn't understand differentiation. If you're yelling and screaming at the television because you don't like what a politician is saying, or you don't like what's going on, with some group of people somewhere, and you're yelling and screaming or even internalizing it about how bad this is and how horrible and we're doomed. Your deep mind doesn't know that you're just going off on the television about stuff that you have no influence over. All it knows is that we're doomed and that people are bad and everything sucks. And so it's just going to say, "Oh, okay, we're doomed. Everything's bad. Everything sucks. I'll make sure that all the stuff that we have influence over conforms to that. Thank you for the instruction." Right? Every time you react to something like that and you don't check yourself, you're giving a command to the most powerful, potent part of yourself to carry out. That's how much power you have. So all the stuff that you do have influence over is now being informed by the stuff that you don't have influence over. So that to make sure that you have a real sucky experience, because that's what you've asked for. That's what you have requested. That was the spell that you just cast. And so just because you wanted to indulge yourself with this need to be right about something that you have no influence over, and you indulged in all this negative thinking and indulged in all of these ideas and created all these laws about how bad everything is and how all that stuff that we just talked about, and you instilled that with a great amount of emotion, so your deep mind took notice. And now that your deep mind is willing and able and ready to make sure to deliver on those promises. So be careful. You have to remember you have power. You have all the power. All the power. But you have to act like it. It doesn't just, you don't just change once. You have to really say, what am I bringing into this situation? What am I bringing into this moment? I mean, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm not one of those people that wakes up singing. I've always, and I think it's because of my birth trauma and the way I was raised, just mornings just aren't my favorite moment. And I have to just be aware and conscious of the thoughts that I'm thinking first thing in the morning, because they will, if I'm not careful, they will cast a spell upon my day for me, right? So I have to think the first thoughts. I have to start. I discipline myself. I have specific thoughts that I think, right? I have to take responsibility for the energy that I bring into my day, and then I have to take responsibility for the energy that I bring into any situation. When I come up against something, am I really afraid? Well, I have to acknowledge that I'm really afraid and say, I don't want to be afraid anymore. I acknowledge that I have a lot of fear here. I don't care why. I don't need to analyze it. I just need to call upon the principle that destroys that fear, the principle that can handle that fear. So I call upon, if I need courage, I call upon infinite life. I call upon infinite principle. I call upon infinite spirit, right? I call upon divine love. I call upon those things. Now, if you call upon those things as deities, that's fine. Or as abstract principles, as of the one power. However you need to do it is fine. Or angels, as long as you do it, as long as you don't keep those negative thoughts unchecked. And this is important. This is important. This is a moment by moment, every day of your life thing. You've got to recognize you have the power. Or you just fall asleep and you still have the power. It's just that you think that you have the power to consider yourself a victim of the universe. And so then that's the experience that you're going to have. So instead of being victimized by your own mind, you're going to now make a new choice. Every situation, I'm going to be aware of the energy I'm bringing into this situation. And I'm going to completely change this situation based on the energy I'm bringing into it. And you can find that easily by going right for praise, love, and gratitude, no matter what's going on. Use those, work with those three thoughts just to get your juices started, praise, love, and gratitude, and see what you can't do to turn things around in the moment. In the moment. You should see response right away. You should definitely feel better, but you should see a response as far as the circumstance right away. If not, that's fine. Just keep at it. But you're probably dealing with something that's beyond your sphere of influence. But start with little things. Like I said, start with little things and be aware of what you're bringing into this situation and see how you can change it just based on that. See how much power you have. It's uncanny how much power you have. You have all the power. Well, this has been so awesome. Thank you so much for being with me today. I cannot wait to work with you again. And until that time, blessed be.